Have you ever wondered why some people are mysteriously targeted, weighed down, or feel an invisible heaviness around them, yet they cannot explain why? What if I told you that sometimes it isn't about what you said or did, but what you were? Yes, even a color on your body can become a mark in the spiritual realm. Witches, sorcerers, and those who deal in darkness have long understood something most people ignore. Colors carry signals. They use certain shades to mark souls, to draw unseen attention, and to silently place people under spiritual oppression from the very beginning of creation. Colors have carried meaning far deeper than the human eye can comprehend. To most, a color is just a shade, a pigment, or a preference in style. Yet in the spiritual realm, nothing is random. Every hue carries an atmosphere, a vibration, and a signal that extends beyond fabric and paint into the unseen battles around us. This is why ancient civilizations attached meaning to colors, why religions have long associated colors with purity, mourning, or victory, and why those who operate in darkness still use them with purpose today. Colors are not just physical. They are spiritual banners that declare allegiance, intention, and identity. Think of how nature itself testifies to this. The sky shifts from blue to crimson, and we instinctively know a storm is coming or a day is ending. The green of leaves speaks of life, while the brown of decay signals death. Our hearts react to these shifts even before our minds process them. This is not accidental. It is the Creator's way of embedding truth into visible signs. If creation itself uses color to announce transition, warning, or promise, then it should not surprise us that the spiritual realm mirrors the same principle. Darkness and light both understand this. What many see as fashion or preference, spirits see as declaration. Witches and those who dabble in hidden practices understand the coded power of color. Certain shades are used in rituals not because of aesthetic appeal, but because in the spiritual realm, those colors carry signals that either attract or repel certain forces. When someone unknowingly wears a color to rituals of binding, oppression, or seduction, they may feel a heaviness, confusion, or sudden spiritual resistance without realizing that they are carrying a mark visible to the unseen. This does not mean every use of color is dangerous, but it does mean we must be awake to the reality that our choices are not as neutral as we imagine. The battlefield of life is not only about words and deeds, it is about symbols. Colors act as spiritual symbols, whether to announce purity, covenant, mourning, or warfare. White has long been associated with light and innocence, black with mourning or concealment, red with blood and passion, purple with royalty and authority. These associations are not empty. They resonate in the unseen realm. When light uses them, they uplift and align with truth. When darkness twists them, they become tools of manipulation and bondage. This is why some colors are consistently used in occult gatherings. They are signals, flags raised to attract forces of darkness. The mistake many make is to assume that ignorance protects them. But in the spiritual realm, ignorance does not erase effect. Just a stepping off a roof without knowledge of gravity still results in a fall. Wearing a color without knowledge of its spiritual weight does not cancel its signal. This is why awareness is vital. To be careless about symbols is to fight with your armor down. The enemy thrives on unawareness, using what seems harmless to create subtle openings of oppression. Yet this does not mean fear should rule our lives. The same Creator who embedded meaning into colors also gave authority to discern and to resist. Being aware is not about superstition, but about strategy. A soldier who recognizes the colors of the opposing army is not fearful. He is prepared. In the same way, knowing the power of colors in the spiritual realm arms us to make choices that align with life, truth, and freedom rather than deception. Colors are not just physical shades on fabric or walls. They are declarations in the unseen, flags that either call down light or draw in shadows. Every time we dress, decorate, or surround ourselves with color, we are making a statement far beyond fashion. To live without awareness is to risk carrying banners we never intended to raise. To live with awareness is to claim our place in the battle, choosing deliberately what signals our lives will release into the unseen realm. The idea of the soul being marked may sound mystical, but in the unseen realm it is a very real principle. Throughout history, marks, symbols, and colors have been used as visible signs of ownership, allegiance, or covenant. What is visible to the natural eye acts as a signal in the invisible world. This is why uniforms identify soldiers, flags identify nations, and seals identify authority. In the same way, those who operate in darkness understand how to use outward things to send inward signals. Certain colors, especially when connected to rituals or intentions, can be used as spiritual signals to mark a person without them realizing it. This mark is not on the skin, it is a projection over the soul. A banner in the spiritual realm that can either attract light or invite darkness. When a person wears or keeps an object connected to certain practices, they may feel it is harmless or only symbolic. Yet colors carry vibrations and memories. Witches and occultists have known for centuries that by placing certain colored objects, candles, or fabrics in rituals, they can create an atmosphere that draws certain spirits. When an unsuspecting person surrounds themselves with those colors or wears them repeatedly in ways aligned with dark practices, they are, in effect, signaling agreement, even without words. In the unseen, agreement gives access, a color that is used as a spiritual flag for lust, fear, or bondage, when adopted ignorantly, can open the door for oppression. This is why the practice is subtle. Darkness rarely announces itself openly. It works through what seems harmless. A color may be trending in fashion or widely used in culture, but in the hidden world, it may be tied to rituals of seduction, control, or identity theft. When worn, it becomes like a beacon. It does not change who you are in essence, but it projects an invitation, a kind of spiritual open door that dark forces recognize. This is what is meant by the marking of the soul. It is not about superstition. It is about the reality that what is carried on the outside can act as a banner in the unseen. Some people notice that when they wear or use a certain color, their mood shifts, strange thoughts occur, or unwanted attention comes. Others find that after decorating their space with certain colors, tension, nightmares, or conflict increase. This is not coincidence. Colors can either amplify light or magnify darkness. They can strengthen purity or reinforce temptation. In the hands of those who practice witchcraft or occult rituals, colors are tools of targeting, ways to identify those who are vulnerable, open, or unaware. Yet it is important to remember that awareness brings power. The purpose of exposing this is not to make people fearful of every color, but to wake them up to discernment. Just as you would not carry a flag of an enemy army into battle, you should not ignorantly display colors that have been weaponized by darkness. You do not have to live in paranoia or shame. You simply need to live in awareness and authority. When you know the meaning behind what you wear or surround yourself with, you can choose to align with light rather than be marked by darkness. In the spiritual realm, marks and signals matter because they represent agreements. If you unknowingly align yourself with a color used as a symbol of oppression, that agreement can be broken through prayer, repentance, and conscious choice. You can reclaim your space, your clothing, and your identity. You can choose to cover yourself with symbols of purity, colors of light, and declarations of freedom. The marking of the soul does not have to be permanent. It can be reversed when the truth is known and authority is exercised. The truth is that dark forces use colors as silent signals to identify, bind, or target people who are unaware. But greater truth is this: you are not powerless. Once you see the strategy, you can break its effect. Awareness, prayer, and deliberate choices remove the enemy's mark and replace it with light. By living intentionally and refusing to be careless about what you wear or keep, you protect your soul from being marked and keep your life under the covering of freedom rather than manipulation. Beauty has always had the power to draw the eye, to stir desire, and to captivate the human heart. From the beginning of time, creation was filled with colors, shapes, and patterns that inspire awe. Yet in the spiritual realm, not everything beautiful is safe. There is a kind of beauty that is deceptive, beauty that shines on the surface but conceals a trap beneath. It is this kind of deceptive beauty that often lures people into spiritual compromise, using what looks harmless or even desirable in the natural to hide what is destructive in the unseen. The danger is not in the beauty itself, but in the manipulation of it. Darkness knows how to cloak itself in what appeals to the senses, wrapping poison in charm and death in disguise. This principle applies especially to colors, symbols, and adornments. A shade that seems elegant or fashionable may carry associations in the spiritual realm that are dangerous. Witches and those who work with hidden powers are masters of this craft. They take what appears attractive in the natural and charge it with meaning in rituals so that it becomes not merely a fabric, but a flag, not merely a design, but a declaration. A person drawn to the beauty of that color may have no idea that in the invisible, they are aligning with forces of darkness. In this way, beauty becomes bait, a lure designed to catch those who are unaware. The deceptive beauty works because it appeals to the natural eye. Humanity is trained to admire what is pleasing, to trust what looks good, and to dismiss warnings if something feels attractive. Yet in scripture and history, we see again and again how appearances can mislead. The fruit in the garden was described as pleasing to the eye, even as it carried death. Armies have been lured into traps by banners and signals that looked noble. In the same way, people today can be lured into spiritual heaviness or oppression by clothing themselves with what they think is beautiful but what has been twisted into a snare. One of the most subtle strategies of the enemy is to package bondage as beauty. He knows that few would willingly embrace darkness if it appeared in its true form. So he cloaks it in colors that delight, symbols that seem fashionable, and patterns that resonate with cultural trends. The individual who wraps themselves in these things may receive attention, admiration, or even empowerment in the eyes of people, but in the unseen world, they are carrying a different signal. They have been marked, not by choice but by ignorance, and the weight of that mark will eventually manifest in unrest, temptation, or despair. This does not mean that all beauty is corrupted or that colors themselves are evil. Beauty was designed by the Creator as a reflection of His glory. Colors, patterns, and adornments were intended to inspire joy and reveal His nature. But when twisted, they become tools of deception. The challenge for every soul is to discern the difference between what is authentically beautiful and what is deceptively so. Authentic beauty uplifts, purifies, and aligns with truth. Deceptive beauty entices, distracts, and leads toward compromise. The reason deceptive beauty is so dangerous is that it blinds the heart. People who are captivated by appearances often ignore the quiet voice warning them. They say, "It's just clothing, it's just color, it's just style." Yet if beauty alone were neutral, Why would darkness use it to disguise? The very fact that it is used as a tool shows that beauty can be manipulated. When a person insists on following only their eyes, they risk walking into traps laid for their soul. But when they ask for discernment, they begin to see past the surface into the deeper reality. The truth is that what looks attractive may not always be safe. Some colors carry signals in the unseen, and some symbols carry weight far beyond their appearance. What is important is not to live in fear of beauty, but to live in wisdom about it. Ask, does this uplift my spirit or drain it? Does this draw me closer to light or leave me unsettled? Deceptive beauty loses its power when it is exposed. Once you see that not everything appealing is pure, you are equipped to choose carefully and clothe yourself not only in what looks good to the eye, but in what aligns with truth. The world is full of deceptive beauty, but the soul that discerns it will not be ensnared. Instead, they will choose what shines with true light, and their life will radiate not the shallow glow of temporary attraction, but the enduring brightness of purity and freedom. Spiritual warfare is not always fought with swords or fire. More often it is subtle, disguised in everyday choices that seem harmless on the surface. One of the most overlooked battlegrounds is the realm of appearance, clothing colors, and cultural trends. To the natural eye, these are matters of style, preference, or fashion. But in the unseen world, they can carry meanings that either align with truth or open the door to deception. Recognizing when these choices are spiritually manipulated requires discernment, because the enemy rarely works openly. Instead, darkness hides behind what is popular, attractive, or normalized, using culture itself as a tool to mark and mislead souls. Clothing has always been symbolic. Uniforms declare identity, robes reveal authority, and colors signify allegiance. This truth is as old as human history, and the spiritual realm mirrors it. When certain colors, patterns, or garments become tools of occult rituals, they are no longer neutral. They are charged with meaning. Witches and those who operate in hidden practices understand this and use clothing and trends as signals. They know that if they can influence what people wear, they can influence what people unconsciously invite into their lives. The deception lies in making these things seem harmless. When society begins to celebrate and normalize what has spiritual weight, the masses accept it without question, and in doing so they unknowingly carry banners of darkness. Discernment begins with awareness. Ask yourself why certain trends rise so suddenly, why a color or style is pushed globally with such intensity. Fashion shifts naturally, but there are times when trends are accelerated unnaturally, spreading like wildfire. Behind some of these movements is not creativity, but strategy. Darkness knows that if a symbol or shade becomes desirable, millions will clothe themselves with it. Without realizing the signal they are sending in the unseen. Recognizing this pattern is the first step to discerning spiritual manipulation. Not every trend is dark, but when something carries an atmosphere of heaviness, lust, rebellion, or pride, it is worth questioning what spirit is behind it. Another sign of manipulation is the fruit it produces. Clothing and colors are not just external, they influence mood, thought, and atmosphere. A person who adopts a certain style may notice changes in their behavior or emotions. Some feel more aggressive, others more sensual, others more rebellious. This is not random. The garments you wear project an atmosphere, and spirits respond to that atmosphere. When a culture glorifies indecency, violence, or occult imagery through clothing, it is a reflection of deeper manipulation. To dismiss it as just fashion is to ignore the way the unseen uses the seen to broadcast messages. Spiritual warfare through clothing also reveals itself in resistance. When someone chooses purity, modesty, or light, they often find themselves mocked, pressured, or told they are old-fashioned. This is not merely social pressure, it is spiritual resistance. Darkness opposes what shines with truth, and it will use ridicule or rejection to push people back into conformity. Recognizing this pressure for what it is, a tactic of warfare, helps the soul stand firm. To conform blindly is to surrender ground. To resist with discernment is to claim victory. Discernment also comes from peace. The spirit is sensitive to what the body carries. When a garment, color, or symbol leaves the soul restless, it is a sign to listen. Many ignore this inner check, dismissing it as paranoia, but often it is divine warning. On the other hand, clothing aligned with purity and light brings peace, strength, and confidence that no external applause can match. The unseen responds to what you carry outwardly, and the inner witness of peace is a reliable guide. To recognize spiritual warfare in trends and clothing is not to reject beauty or creativity. It is to understand that not every beautiful thing is innocent, and not every popular thing is safe. Wisdom requires asking what lies beneath the surface. Who promotes this? What atmosphere does it create? What fruit does it produce? These questions uncover manipulation. The truth is that spiritual warfare does not always roar like a lion. Sometimes it whispers through a shade of fabric or a cultural craze. The discerning soul will not be swept blindly by the tide. Instead, they will clothe themselves in awareness, choosing garments and colors that reflect light, rejecting what carries hidden darkness. In this way, even in something as simple as clothing, the soul takes a stand in the unseen battle and declares allegiance to truth. Purity and light have always been the most powerful shields in the unseen realm. Where purity exists, darkness cannot settle. Where light shines, shadows must flee. This is not only a poetic truth, but a spiritual law woven into creation. Just as colors can be twisted and used as signals for manipulation, they can also be chosen deliberately to align with divine, covering and repel darkness. Every shade carries an atmosphere, and when we clothe ourselves in colors and symbols that reflect purity, humility, and truth, we become less susceptible to spiritual targeting. What you wear and what you surround yourself with acts like a banner. It declares something about your heart, your allegiance, and your spiritual environment. When that banner is one of light, it creates a shield that the forces of darkness cannot easily penetrate. Throughout history and scripture, light colors, especially white, have been symbols of holiness, victory, and divine presence. Angels are described as clothed in shining garments. Priests were instructed to wear white linen when entering sacred places. Even heavenly visions show robes washed and bright. This is not superstition but representation. Light colors carry the energy of openness, cleansing, and revelation. They do not invite hiddenness, they reflect it away. This is why, across cultures, white or light garments are often chosen for sacred ceremonies, weddings, and moments of dedication. They align with purity and repel defilement. When you deliberately clothe yourself in such colors, you are not merely following tradition, you are echoing a spiritual reality that shields you. Symbols also matter. Just as some symbols are used in occult rituals to open doors for darkness, others have been used to declare covenant faith and alignment with truth. Crosses, doves, olive branches, and light-bearing imagery have historically represented peace, hope, and divine authority, when displayed in sincerity, not superstition. These symbols create a spiritual atmosphere that pushes back against manipulation. Darkness cannot stand where the banner of truth is raised. Choosing what symbols you wear or keep in your home is more than decor, it is spiritual strategy. The protection of purity and light does not end with colors and symbols. It begins within. Outward choices must reflect inward alignment. You could wear white every day, but still carry hidden darkness in your heart, and the enemy would see that. Purity and light as protection work when your external choices mirror an internal commitment to truth and righteousness. When the heart is pure, the atmosphere around you becomes pure. When the mind is aligned with light, the unseen shifts. Clothing and symbols then become outward confirmations of an inward reality, amplifying the shield you already carry. This does not mean you must fear every dark color or remove every neutral object from your life. It means you choose intentionally. You ask, does this color uplift me spiritually? Does this symbol reflect my values? Does this create peace in my environment? The answers to these questions reveal whether you are aligning with light or unknowingly carrying something that invites heaviness. Purity and light do not demand uniformity. They invite discernment. They teach you to fill your space and your life with what resonates with freedom, hope, and divine presence. When you clothe yourself in purity and light, you become harder to mark. Just as a soldier in the right armor cannot be wounded easily, a soul wrapped in truth and holiness cannot be bound easily. Your garments of choice and your symbols of faith become reminders to you and signals to the unseen world that you are not available for manipulation. The forces of darkness recognize spiritual authority, and authority flows from purity, humility, and light. The more you align yourself with purity and light, the more your life becomes a sanctuary. Your home feels different, your thoughts feel clearer, your spirit feels stronger. The darkness loses its grip because its entry points have been sealed. You are no longer wearing or displaying banners that call it in. You are radiating a shield that forces it out. This is the power of living intentionally with colors and symbols. It is not about fear, but about faith. It is about using the visible to declare the invisible, to raise a banner of light so strong that darkness cannot remain. By understanding and applying this principle, you are not only protecting yourself, but also transforming your environment. Purity and light act as repellents to manipulation, oppression, and spiritual heaviness. They draw in peace, favor, and clarity. In a world saturated with deceptive beauty and hidden signals, you become a lighthouse. Impossible to confuse, impossible to claim, standing as a visible declaration of freedom in the unseen battle. Awareness is not fear, it is protection. In the unseen battle that surrounds every life, ignorance is never neutral, it is permission. When you do not know what is happening, you cannot resist it. When you dismiss what is real because it feels inconvenient, you make yourself vulnerable to manipulation. This is why awareness is a call, not a suggestion. It is the voice of wisdom urging you to open your eyes, to discern what is happening around you, and to refuse to live as if spiritual reality does not exist. The enemy thrives in darkness, but he also thrives in denial. Those who laugh at spiritual truths, who shrug off warnings as superstition, are often the ones who carry the heaviest unseen burdens. Awareness is the first act of freedom because it exposes the trap before it is sprung. Living alert means rejecting autopilot. Every day you make choices. What you wear, what you bring into your home, what you listen to, what you believe. Most people assume these are small, neutral decisions. But in reality, every choice releases a signal. It either affirms light or gives space to darkness. When you live unaware, you drift with the culture. You wear what is trending, you accept what is offered, and you follow what is promoted without question. This passive approach is exactly what allows the enemy to mark and manipulate souls. The mark does not appear as a stamp or a scar. It is an invisible banner raised over a life that says, accessible. Awareness lowers that banner and raises another, one that says, protected. Taking this seriously does not mean becoming paranoid. or living in suspicion of every object or color. It means living awake. It means pausing long enough to ask, why is this being promoted? What spirit does this carry? What atmosphere does this create in my life? It means listening to that inner check that whispers when something feels off. Awareness is a partnership between your discernment and your choices. When you ignore that partnership, you drift. When you honor it, you strengthen your shield. There is a reason darkness works through subtlety. If the enemy appeared openly and announced his plans, few would follow. But by wrapping manipulation in beauty, fashion, and trends, he makes agreement easy. He makes the mark voluntary without it ever feeling like a choice. Awareness breaks that cycle. It turns the light on in a room that has been dim for too long. Suddenly you see what was hidden. You realize that some habits, colors, or symbols in your life were not harmless after all. You begin to reclaim territory. This is why living alert is not just wise but necessary. To refuse manipulation, you must also refuse passivity. Every time you say, it's just fashion, or it's just culture, you are handing away your authority. You are allowing the unseen to decide what signals you send. Awareness flips that. It puts you back in control. You choose your clothing, your environment, your symbols, and your habits with intention. You stop drifting and start declaring. The enemy recognizes authority, and authority begins with awareness. This call to awareness is urgent because the battle is constant. The moment you wake up spiritually, you stop being a passive target and become an active participant. You begin to shape your environment rather than letting it shape you. You begin to clothe yourself in colors and symbols that align with purity and light. You begin to close doors you did not even know were open. Slowly but surely, the heaviness lifts, the confusion clears, and the atmosphere around you shifts. Awareness is not about living in fear of darkness. It is about walking boldly in light. It is about recognizing that you are responsible for what you allow in your life. It is about refusing to be marked by anything that is not aligned with truth. The more alert you are, the less accessible you become to manipulation. The more you discern, the free you live. Awareness is your invitation to rise from passivity, to open your eyes, and to step fully into the covering of light, where no mark of darkness can remain. We began with the power of colors in the spiritual realm, learning that what seems physical is far more than style or preference. It is a banner that speaks in unseen battles. We uncovered how the soul can be marked by certain colors, used by dark forces as silent signals to identify, bind, or target people without their awareness. We saw the danger of deceptive beauty, how what looks attractive in the natural can carry hidden traps in the spiritual. We learned how to recognize warfare in cultural trends and clothing choices, refusing to be swept into manipulation disguised as fashion. We discovered that purity and light are not just ideals but protections. That when we align with them, we raise banners that repel darkness and invite peace. Finally, we heard the call to awareness, the urgent invitation to live alert and intentional, refusing to be marked or manipulated by the enemy. This entire message comes down to one truth. Nothing is neutral in the battle for your soul. Every color, every symbol, every choice sends a signal. You are either aligning with light or opening yourself to shadows. The enemy uses subtlety, but awareness breaks his hold. Purity and light remain stronger than any manipulation. And when you choose them, you raise a shield around your life that no darkness can penetrate. The conclusion is this: live awake. Do not dismiss these truths as superstition or exaggeration. Take them seriously, for eternity takes them seriously. What you wear, what you carry, what you allow into your space matters more than you realize. Refuse to be marked by deception. Refuse to be manipulated by trends. Clothe yourself in light. Align yourself with truth and lift a banner of purity that speaks louder in the unseen realm than any snare of darkness ever could. This is not just a message to hear, it is a call to act. From this moment forward, choose wisely, live intentionally, and walk covered by the power of purity and the shield of light. For when you do, you not only protect your destiny, you shine as a beacon, unmarked, unshaken, and untouchable by the schemes of darkness.